Welcome back to part 2 of my healing journey. I'm Dr. Jasmine, and I'm so excited that you decided to join me today. If you missed part 1, run it back on YouTube or anywhere you listen to the Girl Go Global podcast. So let's jump right back into the conversation.
And then one day, I just got in the mirror and said, it's time to cut it.
And you chose your heart. And so I want to just pause there for just a second, because there are some things, because cancer is just running amok, right, around the world. And
literally.
So we all hear stories and we see stories. You are the type of person who likes to choose their heart. And what I mean when I say that is, there's a heart coming, right? And you can choose it up front, or you can wait for it to randomly hit. And with your hair was one of the times you chose your heart.
Yeah.
You were talking about that. That was the main thing. Like, of all the other things that could have possibly gone on, the one that you were concerned with was the hair. You were like, I got this. Like, we gonna beat this. All right, cool. We gonna beat it. But what about my hair? And, and I remember as a Black woman, you can't just be like, girl, it's hair. You can't say that. You have to, it'll grow back. I mean, because you're thriving right now with it. But I'm just saying, there was a time during this. And so you chose your heart, and you decided, once you started getting the signs that it was going to happen, you said, okay, I'm going to take this matter into my own hands.
Yeah.
And you decided, I'm going to cut my hair off now. So that way I chose to do it as opposed to it happening to me.
Yeah, so funny thing is, I know some people like to go off and cut their hair before they start treatment because they know it's going to fall out. But for me, I don't know what I was kind of thinking, but from everything I know about my personality, it was like, all right, I'm taking these supplements. I'm praying. I'm fasting. It's like, we're going to see if the hair actually come out.
Let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see what the end going to be.
Because God can do anything.
Listen, but it stayed for a really long time. It stayed, because every time you called, I remember that was the thing that I was thinking about. Like, is she about to tell me her hair? Because that's the part I was worried. Like, we needed to be there if her hair started coming out. Like, we needed to be physically right there next to her.
No, I did not take... I know people say they felt liberated. They want to take pictures with their hair gone.
That's not how you handled it.
I got lumps in my head. Like,
I got lumps in my head.
My head is
don't have a smooth round head.
It's not smooth round. It's not no bowling ball. It's not smooth. So I'm like, that ain't cute. Like, I don't find that cute. Like, I'm not going to just put my makeup on and put my ear. That's not me. Okay, good. Kudos to anybody that is. I got lumps in my head.
I got lumps in my head.
So for me, just the thought of that was just like, that's not liberating to me. Does that make sense?
For you,
not
I get
in
it.
a bad way.
It liberates a lot of people.
It was not liberating to me.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, being in the pandemic, I didn't have to necessarily go find a wig, because I'm home. So I would have bought some scarves, bought some kind of turban kind of hats that I would wear. And if people look on some of the interviews about my book, when I was going through chemo, I was doing interviews, all kinds of things. I would have my little hats on, my earrings, nobody knew. People go back into some of the content that I even taped or was in different things, but, that wasn't liberating for me. But chemo is not a game,
I remember the first time I saw you, and of course we are extra and we're hugging and we acting like Nettie and Celie.
Oh yeah, we were in Atlanta.
Yeah. We acting like Nettie and Celie and clapping our hands. And I looked down at your hands, and you was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. That's just what chemo do." I got in my car and cried the whole way home.
Oh,
I cried the whole way home because I had not realized how much this had... You were so good at being you no matter what.
Yeah.
And you were I remember it took you a long time for you to show me your head because you kept talking about the lumps.
Oh yeah, I did. I think I showed
and then
you
finally, it was like we were on like a video chat, and you were like, "I'm like, Jack, just take the turban off so I can see your head. It's me, you know." And you took it. I'm like, "It's not that bad." You like, you don't see this long, right? But when I saw you in person, so I was prepared for the eyebrows. I was prepared for the hair. I held your hands and looked down, and your fingernails were like dark.
Yeah.
And you were someone who kept her nails together. Okay. And so I didn't say it, and you didn't even, you again chose your heart. Mm-hmm. You said it for me. You were like, "Oh, this is what chemo do. Don't worry about it." Give me your hands. Your nails are back.
Yeah.
Your nails are back.
Yeah.
And I noticed that's the first thing I did when you walked in was look for your fingernails.
Oh, wow.
Because
I didn't even know that.
I know you didn't know that. And I couldn't tell that to you. What am I going to tell my friend that's going through all of this that, let me see your nails? But that's how I knew how drastic it was. Because you were like, "Tiffany, they're putting poison in me. They're putting poison in me." And I'm like, "I know, Jazz. You guys say it like that?" Like, you know. And you just, you did it.
Yeah, that was one of the side effects from the first treatment. So like I said, it was 4 high dose treatments. They basically throwing everything at you, the kitchen sink when you have diagnosis from triple negative. And so that was one of the side effects. My nails, my toenails basically all turned black. Even one of my toes, I was clipping my toenails and it almost came off. I said, "Oh, let me stop."
Not, "Oh, let me stop."
Let me stop. And so I was like, it's coming up. You know, I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm just, clipping my toenails. So, yeah, very sensitive, painful, lots of side effects. I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I remember you were tired.
I could not walk. I would have to get help going to the bathroom. I could not eat certain things, vomiting. And so my husband goes from being my husband newlywed to, wiping up vomit off the bedroom floor. There were some tough days that we had throughout the time, even the diagnosis. And I remember I was laying down after one of the surgeries. Had a lot of surgeries, tested my lymph nodes and all kinds of things, even before treatment. And I didn't see my husband get very emotional much but one time. And I'm sure that he might have had his own moments, certainly. But, I guess being strong for me, he didn't show it to me. But we just laid in the room and kind of just cried and went to sleep.
Enough said.
Yeah. Very tough days, when my husband I knew that for me, it was more along the lines of when I go through treatments, I was like working all throughout chemo.
I know.
I was working. Well, we were home.
I know, but that didn't excuse it.
But I would take
that didn't excuse it.
I would take off from work on my treatment days, and then a few days after, especially when I was going through those high dose treatment, I would be out of it. And so I would take off, I guess, 3 days every other week. And then by the time it was like, as you get your energy back up, then you gotta go again into this treatment. And so, I would be off, and then I would be back working online. But I did tell my supervisor at the time and just a couple of my coworkers, because I was going to be out a lot and we were working on a big project for work. And so they were always supportive when I was going through like brain fog, and they could tell we on the calls and the video calls, and I would be not on camera because I'm not the same person I left when we left in 2019, 2020. So they would jump in and answer questions for me. Or I asked, can you lead this meeting? And they would lead the meeting for me. Mm-hmm. So some of my coworkers that I expressed to, they were very, very supportive. But, my husband went to every appointment. He never missed a treatment. He couldn't go into the treatments with me at first because it was COVID. So I was in there by myself. So
that's a lot.
He would have set up a Zoom call with my family. By the time I started some of my treatments, I had started sharing with my immediate aunts and uncles, and they would be on a Zoom call. And I had my laptop up because chemo treatment day for me, I'm there all day because I'm getting blood work to see if I can take the treatment and all of that. So I packed my own lunch,
We know you brought your own food. You know, we know you brought your own food, and where was your juice? Because we know you had that too.
I'm having like a Zoom party with my family because they can't come in.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. My husband, he couldn't come up. The one person in the hospital. Yeah. Some kind of way, every treatment, he was up there. He found a way to come up there.
Leave it to a black man to find a way.
He did not let me go up to that office by myself.
Yeah, that's the support.
Yeah.
And so like treatment, so we know treatment consisted of chemo, an aggressive form of chemo, and you did that, and you had 16 treatments of that, and then it went into surgery.
Yeah.
And then how many surgeries did you have to have?
Oh my God, I can't even count at this point how many surgeries I had. I had a sentinel node biopsy before I had treatment to see, did the cancer spread to my lymph node?
Right, that was a big concern.
That was a big concern. That would determine how many treatments I need. And
right.
It had spread at stage 1B at the time. Very small percentage. Right. Milliscopic, if that is the correct word. I don't know, but tiny.
Listen, we used to be in the worst. We're going to make up our own words this time, okay? We're making up our own words this time.
But you, basically, it's so small that you need to see it under a microscope.
Right.
And so, because of that small amount, that's why I needed to go through all those treatments.
Right.
And so, from there, after the surgery, because I guess the treatment plan for triple negative is not surgery first. It is treatment, the chemotherapy, then surgery.
Right.
And so while I was in chemo, I think the tumor shrunk after my fourth treatment.
But you still had to. I remember you were like, I don't even understand why I got to keep taking all these treatments because it's going already. And I'm like, girl, if you don't do what they said do and stop playing with us.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And then, so we go through all of that.
Then the surgery.
Yeah. Okay, but it didn't stop with just that surgery.
Yeah.
There were subsequent surgeries after that. So let's talk about that. Like you tell me.
Yeah, so I guess a month after chemo ended, they gave me a month to kind of just recover a little bit, just to kind of get my strength back. So that month, my husband drove me all the way to Florida to get some sun.
Shout out to a good husband.
And by the way, he hadn't even told his family. He did not tell anybody that I had ever been diagnosed. And I kept asking him, you sure you don't want to sit up to your family? He said no. So he know his family better than I do. And he said he wanted some normalcy about his engagement. He needed something to be a little bit normal because nothing was normal.
Right.
So he decided for him, and I'm just speaking for him, when he talked to his brothers or talked to his mom or whomever or his dad, he didn't want it to be, oh, is Jazz okay? Or this somberness. He wanted to have some moments of laughter and, just moments of being and be themselves without, feeling like they had to, be super overly emotional or sensitive about what we were going through.
Yeah.
And so he drove me all the way to Florida. We spent about a month there. And on the road, we didn't drive straight from Maryland. We stopped, I think, maybe in South Carolina, stayed overnight and drove the rest of the way. But I could not drive. Like I said, I was in a wheelchair.
You wasn't going to drive even if you could.
My joints were aching. I could not really walk a lot, But on the road, he said, okay, I'm going to call my family. And so we called and we shared. They were kind of solid on the phone for a minute.
And what do you say to that?
Because I guess, when me coming into the home, coming in around the family, okay, you're going to see my hair's gone. I look different. I've at that point, lost some weight. I'm not walking normally. It's very, very slow, need help. And so, they needed to know at that point, basically.
Ma'am, don't ever cold show up to my house and tell me,
Yeah. So they were obviously shocked, obviously had some emotion around it. But, they jumped right in to support us, from the moment that they did find out. And so I went and recovered in Florida, just enjoying the sun. He would take me to the beach. And I have to like shout out to my husband, because even while going through all those months of treatment, because I started the chemo in December, I did not finish until April the 21st. I know all these dates, right? And I finished, and when I would have treatment, he said, okay, we're going to get out this house. We're locked in the house. We can't go anywhere. He would take me to a hotel, spend a weekend. Take me to some hotel, and at that time the hotels were super inexpensive. No one's traveling,
right?
So we're renting suites,
yeah,
and we're just at a place overlooking the water or a nice view. I can't do anything literally. All I can do is just lay in a bed because I'm still recovering from these treatments. He would take me away from for the weekend, and then we'd just go back home,
reminding you that life is out there to be lived,
and just getting out of the house. And so, you know, when we got to Florida, he'll take me to the beach. We just enjoy the day there, just getting out, thinking, just enjoying each other's company. So after, when I got home, I think my first surgery, my first lumpectomy, was in June, because I finished in April. And I had told him I don't want to have surgery before my birthday. So my birthday is May 27th. And so I had my first surgery early June. And so the idea was for them they put a clip where the tumor was, that same clip from when they did the biopsy all those months ago. And so basically they had to go in and find the clip. And so my surgeon had to send me off to get a guided MRI biopsy to make sure that the clip was still there. And that was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my life. And then basically when I had the surgery, they removed it and did not find any residual cancer. But what they did find was what they call DCIS. And the best way I can explain it is, I guess what they might call precancerous cells.
Right.
It's not quite cancer.
It's that in between, could possibly be cancer.
Over time. It's something in that area of the breast.
It could evolve
into that.
Right.
And so their goal when they are doing those surgery is to get what they call clean lines. Because my original treatment plan was to have chemo, surgery, and then radiation.
Right.
And so we had the surgery, and they did not get those clean lines. They found that what they call that DCIS. And I'm like, I'm getting education on what that is. And, you know, it's so important when you're going to all those meetings to record those sessions with your doctor so you can understand what they are saying. These are the new terms, big words, so you can go home and kind of take in what they're saying, because they're giving you a lot of information at once.
A lot of research was in it. You was looking things up, educating yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So that you can be an advocate for yourself. You need to advocate for yourself.
Hello.
So shout out to you. Most people just stop and leave it in the hands of the doctors. You cannot do that. You have to participate. You know,
for sure.
You have to participate in this process.
Every step of the way.
You can't time out.
I'm talking with my compound pharmacist. Every step of the way, I'm keeping my spiritual advisors, our pastors that we're consulting with. My mom, she's an intercessor. My sisters, you know, one of my sisters, she in her room, and when you go in her bedroom, she got a sign that say "praying now" on the door. Don't come in. So I go over their house, and she got praying. She in there praying. You know,
and
don't
not
knock on
even
the door.
you could bother her. Okay.
Right. So I mean, I'm just keeping. So because our thing is, like I said, it was about sharing it with people who I knew had a ear to God, who I knew was going to be leaning into prayer for me. And so every step of the way, I'm updating people. Okay, this is the stage I'm in now.
You should send us little text messages.
Everybody who I told I would send text messages, and I would say, okay, I'm going into surgery. This is now what we're praying for. We're praying for clean lines. This is what we're praying for. And this is what the doctor said now. And so, because it's so important, you know, as Christians, you know, to know how to pray. Don't just, you know,
and how to choose your weapon.
How to choose your weapon, how to pray, to know how to fight the enemy. Like literally, you need to know why you're being attacked.
Yeah.
You know, so that was like that whole process. And so they didn't get those clean lines that first time. And so I said, okay, I want to go back in. Because I know in my mind, it's God said, right? And I don't want to lose my breast, to be honest.
Right.
You know, that's also in the back of my mind. As a female, do I want to lose my breasts?
Literally said to me, I mean, I didn't have a lot to start out with,
but I want what I got.
I want what I got. And I just remember, I was sitting on the phone
I lasted 40 years with it, and I still want it.
When you said it was but I want what I got thing. I'm like, girl, if we got to make you some new ones, that's what we're going to do. And so you're saying all this, so that was just to remove the cancer, right?
The residual. They wanted to they're going to see if the chemo did its job,
right? So that was just the first part, because people think that, once you get the cancer, it's up from there. But that's not the case, because the recovery is the real work, right? The recovery is the real work, because now you are faced with decisions like, I didn't have these clean lines, so we had to go back in. What we're going to do next? That's when the conversation of mastectomy comes into play,
that's
right?
That's a whole other thing.
And then, do we get a single one? I don't know what the single one's called, or do we get a double or a single? Right. Yeah. And so then recovery starts. Yeah. Okay, so, but recovery is not I'm gaining my strength, I'm feeling better. It's another surgery.
It's, I'm recovering from chemo, but I still need to go through these surgeries and recover from that.
Exactly. And so that was, for a lot of women, rightfully so, that is a heavy conversation and a hard decision.
Sure.
So I remember you were being posed with the question, do you want a single or a double? Mm-hmm. And we literally were going through the pros and the cons of, should you do both?
Yeah. At first I had pep myself up I'm about to get me a free boob job.
I was like, you getting free perkies. You can walk around like you're a teenager again.
Let's go. I'm in the game. Ooh, I'm about to get me some, cha-chas or something. I don't know. But
I was like,
I literally
did we discuss them taking some from your stomach too? Because remember
that's an option. They got different
I'm like, you get a tummy tuck and a boob lift?
So
I don't know.
It depends on what you get.
Right.
So because see, what we all need to know is that a mastectomy is not a breast implant or what they call augmentation.
Right.
Right. It's a whole different ball game. They are taking tissue out of your chest, out of the sides of your arm. They're not just going to plop it up in an implant. Right.
Right.
But they're just taking all this tissue out.
Right.
But so I didn't get those clean lines the second time. I said, oh God. I'm praying. I felt like, Lord, you said, I'm praying. What I didn't say is every morning I'm up with my prayer shawl in my living room praying. And I'm like, God, this is not what I want. So also having to come to the conclusion, this deep disappointment, that second time they did the re-excision to go in to see if they can get the clean lines, there was a deep disappointment there in my heart. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
When you start
take
praying
the wind out
you said those God you said prayers, that they hit different. The God you said prayers.
You said I'm healed. You said this, Lord.
So why doesn't this look like what you said?
Yeah. And I guess I had to get out of myself. I had to get out of what I wanted.
Or what you thought it was supposed to look like. Yeah.
That's another battle of the mind, if you will, So
that's one of the hardest ones, when you're disappointed because it don't look like
deep disappointment. I have to say, I think that's one of the few times during this journey where I felt like a really deep disappointment. Because I believe God would give me the desire of my heart in that way, because I didn't want to lose my breasts.
Right.
So that was tough. It took me we had, again, my husband is one that encouraged me, let's get a second opinion.
Right.
Let's get a third opinion. Maybe we don't have the right surgeon operating. Why aren't they getting the clean lines?
Maybe
are they doing it too fast?
Yeah.
So we even had, we sought out two different surgeons to see what they thought.
Right.
Just to consult. have to just get one opinion.
And
we drove all the way
you
to Frederick, Maryland,
that.
about 40 minutes.
You exercised that multiple times during this journey.
Yeah.
You would get second, third, and fourth opinions just to make sure that who you were with was who you were supposed to be with. And I commend you on that, because that part alone is exhausting.
Yeah.
That is exhausting.
Telling your story over and over again.
Rehearsing it. Like, I know, like, in therapy, the therapist always tells you, like, if something that bad that has happened, don't rehearse it. Don't stop telling it over and over again. Your body has to literally live through that moment again. You have to remember what you felt like, what you were wearing, what you were doing, who said what, and what happened. But you had to rehearse it. And I mean, thank God we got to someone who you were comfortable with, and you also got to a place where, come with may as well with my soul.
I'm just really an advocate for being your own advocate. But after those opinions, most of the doctors were saying different. Some doctors gave me different thoughts on what should be, what should not be. But at the end of the day, I decided to have the bilateral mastectomy on the left side.
Right.
And I did not have they call it a deep flap, where they take tissue from your belly and put it in your breast. I have a breast implant, and they were able to do what they call nipple sparing surgery. So I was able to preserve my nipple. Okay. So when they go in for the surgery, they test behind the nipple to make sure there was no cancer or anything behind the nipple, no residual. They make sure, because they don't want to spare the nipple if, later on down the line something may happen. So they gave the all clear. And because, like I said, I didn't start out with much in the first place. Ma'am. They were able to preserve my nipple. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. And I know it kind of operates, but I don't necessarily feel what's happening, if that makes sense. Because it's like I said, it's not a breast augmentation. So some of those same sensations and feeling that you have, I don't have.
Now, will you ever, because I know you can get lumpectomies, like I've had one, and then I was being vain, call it what you like. I got my other one augmented to match, because I wanted them to at least look like sisters. But at first I didn't have any, but now 2-3 years later, I'm starting to feel sensation again. Will that happen for you?
Well, the mastectomy, everything I've learned, everything I've been told, they basically taking all that tissue and all of those cells and things out. So you have to the stuff of those nerves and things have to grow back. I do have some feeling that I can feel certain things, especially around the outer part of the breast.
And that's usually the first to come back.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know, God can do anything. Right? So
God, you said. Like,
right, God, you said. God, you listen, I believe God. So I believe God can grow you can grow limbs. That's what the word says. So the Bible, that God's still doing miracles, and I can be a candidate. Okay. Yeah. So, and I'm willing to tell you, I do qualify. Yeah. So, nonetheless, I had the mastectomy. I opted to have the implant placed versus having my own tissue placed, because for us, remember I told you, we still want a family plan. Right. We already started that process. And so I said, well, you know what? Since they kind of come with the territory, I had to have, you don't leave breast implants in forever. They had to be swapped out after so many years. When we are blessed to have a child, I said, well, after I, give birth,
part of mommy makeover.
That could be a part of the mommy makeover. To take that, anything.
I love the foresight. I love the foresight.
I can't, lose myself to take that excess tissue and use it to, replenish and reconstruct the breast in the way that it should be.
I'm so glad that you are sitting here on this couch with me now after all of that.
Yeah.
We've talked about when you were diagnosed. We talked about reactions. We talked about the experience. We talked about the treatment plan. We talked about the surgeries, the chemo. We talked about the recovery that doesn't really feel like recovery, but nonetheless it is. How do you process it? when you look back at the journey? And takeaway line, we love a good takeaway. What would be your top 3 takeaway regarding this journey?
I guess my top 3 takeaways would be to be your own advocate, for one. I believe in now that it's so important that you understand your own body in a way that you can advocate for yourself, because there are too many tragic stories where many people, not just women, have walked away from a doctor's office because of a opinion or a lab result. I don't know. They just walked away and did not go the extra mile to confirm.
Right.
And then it turned out to something tragic happens later.
Yeah.
The second thing, it would be the greatest takeaway is, I have to say, leaning into my relationship with the Lord in ways that gave me the comfort in knowing that everything was going to be okay.
That type of trust that teaches you how to rest?
Yeah. It's more so like that type of trust that every step of the way, I can't do it without God. Else I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, I can't go without stopping and get clarity from the Lord about this step. That's one of the things that this has taught me, if I never knew it before, and I'm sure that I did, but just taught me in a new way, that at every stage I literally needed God to just give me a new answer, because the answer that he gave me months ago may not have been what I need to do now.
Right.
So that was one of the other takeaways. And I don't necessarily regret not sharing certain things with people. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I felt like people wouldn't be supportive or whatever the case may be. It is that I wanted to keep it contained until I could understand how to control it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I'm not being ashamed of my decision to do that, and I'm not going to feel bad. So it's like, trust what you need in that moment. Does that make sense? Like, trust what you need to do and make the best decision for yourself, for your own self-care, for your own mental health. Because I know now, it's just nothing that I regret. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your one-liner, what is it that you want people, or that you want to get across to people by sharing a story? Give it to me in a one-liner.
Oh,
you love one-liners.
Oh my goodness.
I keep hearing God did.
I don't know. Oh my goodness. I hadn't thought of it. I'm always asking people these types of questions, and I hadn't even thought of it. But I guess I would have to just say, I believe the God who sees, knows, and cares for me. There's no time and moment that I didn't know that God wasn't concerned about me. From the moment that I shared with various friends, from the moment that I knew God was on my side, when, even going back to my book, when he gave me a deadline to write it, that let me know that I was going to come out on the other side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It let me know that I was going to come out on the side when someone, woman of God, calls me to say, God has assigned me to your case.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
That let me know, even what I didn't share earlier, I had a dream, a nightmare actually, months before I got diagnosed, where I saw, I guess what you might say, a demonic person in my dream who walked up to me and grabbed my left breast. And I looked down in the dream and I didn't have a blouse on, and I covered myself up. In the shower, during the pandemic, when I was growing my hair, doing all kind of aloe treatments and all that kind of thing, my hair was down my back. I said, "Ooh, I learned how to grow my hair in the pandemic."
Oh my goodness.
All the way down my back, right?
Oh gosh.
I heard the Lord say cancer. And I would be in the prayer rebuking it for my family, my friends, and I didn't know that the Lord was speaking to me. So when I look back at that moment, I had to trust that God who sees me, who knows me and cares about me in ways that I might not have understood it had not gone through this experience.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, when I hear God, when I have a dream, when I have a moment, an encounter with what I like to call the divine, I need to trust that because I know that God sees, knows, and He cares.
Ashe, I'm here for all of that. I'm going to adopt that and subscribe to it.
And He has shown up and manifested Himself in so many ways that are indescribable. And I'm grateful to have that relationship.
And with that, I think that the story has been told. You have released it. And you can go back to being a storyteller.
Yeah.
and get out the hot seat.
Yeah.
But know this, you are more than a cancer survivor. You are a thriver.
Thriver.
You are a thriver. In the midst of fighting maybe one of the biggest battles in your life, you wrote a book. You birthed a business.
How about that?
You created a podcast.
Oh, girl, go global.
And no one knew any of the background.
Yeah.
If that's not hiding you while you go through, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I literally shipped out my first set of books after my first chemo treatment.
Wow. So speaking of your first book, you've chronicled your journey with surviving singleness through heart rhythms. I didn't realize it was right there. Heart rhythms. Will you do the same for this journey?
We'll see. I have some ideas, and it's so funny. It's so funny that we were talking. You asked that question, and we were kind of part of our conversation. We talked about how kind of before we get somewhere, we know.
Yeah.
And the Lord had given me a book title so many years ago, and I think it's going to be very applicable to when He does lead me to tell more about my story. Because my story is still being written, but I do have a book idea that I think this story will be a part of it, one of many. But I think I might, but that's not my focus right now. I'm still recovering. I'm still getting my strength back after having finished chemo in 2021. I'm still have some residual effects that I'm dealing with. We are looking toward family planning.
I need a niece or a nephew.
So it is.
I'm sorry, a nephew, to be clear. The dream said so.
Oh, hello. So it is. It's in the works, but I'm grateful to God that I'm getting back to some level of normalcy. I used to work out pretty actively 3 or 4 times a week.
You found a new love.
I was boxing. I've started playing tennis.
Your new love.
My new love. So I've started just doing some new things. I started the podcast because in my way, Girl Go Global, more so because I wanted to find a way to point people back to God, because I want people to know the same God I know, the God who knows me,
and
who sees me and carries me. So I want to point people back to Christ. And so that's what I'm doing with those ventures that I'm doing through my devotionals that I release regularly, and podcasting and other things that I look to do in the future. But even if I don't even do it in that way, my goal, my life, my mission now is to point people back to Christ, because that is what we're supposed to do as ambassadors of Christ.
Mm-hmm. So give it to us one more time. The God that what?
I trust and I believe the God that sees me, that knows me, and cares about me.
And cares about us.
Us.
And cares about you.
Oh, thank you, girl.
I love you.
I love you too.